Howdy, howdy, yo, SpaghettiOs, and welcome to episode 36 of the Back of the End Zone podcast. I'm Josh Reisick, here with Brian Koleski, and man, what a crazy weekend in college football. Obviously, Everyone kind of already knows what happened. Obviously, Florida State left out of the mix, but Brian, what are we going to get into today?
We're going to get into that most definitely. Did the committee make the right decision? Can you disagree with what the committee did, but still say they made the right decision? I think so. I'll get into that, or we'll both get into that. And then also the Heisman Trophy is going to be given this weekend to one of four players. The Heisman finalists were announced. It's Jaden Daniels, Bo Nix, Michael Penix, and Marvin Harrison Jr. And did they get that right? Was there
someone left out potentially with Marvin Harrison Jr. getting in there? We'll get into that too.
Maybe there were maybe a couple players that probably also deserved it as well, but we all have an idea of probably who's going to win it, but we'll get into that. And then the transfer portal got into a little bit last week. It is still it opened officially on Monday, and it has just been all chaos.
It has been extremely chaotic, and I mean, especially for Ohio State. I mean, for me myself, lots of guys have left, and not that I'm upset about that at all. And a lot of people are like, "Oh, is this Ohio State's downfall? What's happening with Ryan Day?" I don't think it is. We'll get into that too.
Yeah.
We'll get into a lot of teams with some hypothetical situations with maybe where some players might end up, where they're leaning towards currently.
Yeah.
And that kind of scenario.
And then we might take an early look at some bowl matchups. There's a few that I really like. Also, the college football playoff matchups. Michigan and Alabama and the Rose Bowl does not get any better than that. Washington and Texas, two high-flying offenses going at it in the Sugar Bowl. We're going to take an early look at those two games and just see where it goes.
Oh yeah, can't wait to get right into it.
All right, before we get started, we're going to thank our sponsors. Now Fitness is a gym and fitness center based in Grove Hill, Alabama. They do personal training, group sessions with CrossFit, and other workouts to help local athletes train and get in their best shape. Call 251-269-3065 for more at Now Fitness.
And one of our other sponsors as well is 251 Pool Works. They are family owned and operated. 251 Pool Works offers pool cleaning, maintenance, and repair. They serve the greater Mobile, Baldwin County, and Pensacola areas. And if you're needing any monthly pool cleaning service and or repair, give them a call at 251-978-7736 for the Pool Works. Can't thank both of our sponsors enough for sponsoring this segment.
What they do is huge for us. So.
Yeah, it is huge, and we've got some big things on the way too coming shortly after Christmas. So can't wait for that. But let's get right into this. So right away, I think everyone that is probably watching this too is kind of aware of what we're going to go into. But Florida State, man, 13-0, ACC champions without Jordan Travis. They're undefeated. They get left out of the playoff.
And I think there's a logical way to look at this. I think Florida State should have been in. Absolutely, they should have been in. But, and Brian Kelly brought this up. They asked him about it, and when they started this, they knew there was going to be, there's 5 power conferences. Okay, now we're probably down to 4 coming next year, and that works itself out considering that the 4 best Power 5 conferences are the best 4 champions will get a bye. But he said, we take the 4 best teams. Even if all 5 teams would have went 13-0, one of them was going to get left out anyway. And now the problem is there's two teams that got in with a loss, Texas and Bama, and then you have Florida State who's 13-0 and got left out. I just think the committee solely left him out because of the Jordan Travis injury.
Easily, without a doubt.
If it were me, I would have put Bama. Now I'm a Bama fan. I'm a little biased, but I'm looking at this without any bias. I just thought Bama's resume was better.
Oh, I would agree. And as an Ohio State fan, looking at it from the outside in, did Florida State deserve to be in? Yes, they went 13-0. Just because Jordan Travis got hurt, that doesn't take away from the fact that team still powered through, still got through the adversity, and still won the conference championship, still went undefeated. But Bama and Texas are both better teams than Florida State is, and we're going to see that when Florida State plays Georgia in their bowl game. And we're going to see,
those two teams might not be the same anyway.
Because of transfers and because of people sitting out, opt-outs, yes. But so that'll be interesting too. But it's like, I don't think, like, yes, should Florida State have been in there? Yes. But I think the committee was making a statement for next year's 12-team playoff and showing right now we're going to put the best 4 teams in the playoff. And I think that's what they did.
And had this not been the last year of the 14 playoff, I feel like they would have gone the path of least resistance, because and I've seen some people call putting Bama in as the path of least resistance. No, it wasn't. They wouldn't have got the only people they would have gotten pushback from as far as putting Florida State in over Bama would be Bama fans, including probably myself. But that's just but they have gotten so much more backlash of leaving Florida State out, but I feel like they just went with their gut this time. They finally stuck to their principles. And if you look at the criteria, they put the teams in that best describe their criteria. And if you look at their criteria, on the page of the playoff committee, like on the website, it says, head-to-head matters, conference champion matters, wins and losses matter. But it also says that unavailability or injury to significant players, and that's where the out was.
Yeah, and it was the out, and that's the huge thing too, because you look at it, and looking at this year's playoff, I don't think Florida State would have stood a chance against any of the other teams that are in the playoff.
And you could watch the game against Florida. You could watch the game against Louisville. They were not the same team offensively. Now their defense, give them all the credit in the world,
easily
lights out against both teams,
easily.
But when you're going up against teams like Michigan, Texas, Washington, you're going to have to play offense too. And I think you could look at Bama and Texas. Bama, who just knocked off the number 1 team in Georgia, won 29 straight, back-to-back champs. Literally was the number 1 team from pretty much start to finish this season, except for maybe 1 or 2 weeks. And they beat them in Atlanta, pretty much their own house. And
snapped a 29-game win streak.
Yeah, and so I felt like that was the better win, in addition to top 15 Ole Miss, top 15 LSU, top 20 Tennessee, and road wins against Auburn, A&M. I mean, and yeah, Bama struggled some. They lost to Texas at home.
They struggled against USF, but that's the beginning of the season. Stuff like that happens.
Yeah.
And it's like you look at the same, and not that I'm trying to compare Bama to Ohio State, but in 2014, very similar situation with Ohio State. Ohio State lost like week 2, week 3 to Virginia Tech, who was awful that year. Then and everyone was like, oh, Ohio State sucks. They bounced back and won the national championship that year.
And going back to that, people want to compare this situation to that situation. It was not the same situation at all about how it played out on the field. Ohio State went to that Big Ten championship and slaughtered Wisconsin.
They won 59-0. Melvin Gordon was a Heisman finalist, and they shut him down too. Like, they literally completely shut down that Wisconsin team.
The style points did matter.
Exactly.
And some of the people in the media, and I'm not calling anybody out, I'm just, because I respect the higher media a lot. I'm just saying some people want to call it a beauty pageant. Yes, it is a beauty pageant, because I think, and Josh Pate from 247 Sports and CBS said the other night on his show, Late Kick or whatever his show is, and I watch him. He said that probably what happened is the committee saw that the national championship last year, Georgia and TCU,
yeah, and they did not want that to happen again.
They did not want that to happen.
No, and that probably would have happened, because you think about ratings-wise too, for them making money. Everybody, and I'll be honest too, like, after quite a while, I was like, I don't even want to watch this game anymore. Yeah. Like, Georgia's destroying them. There's no point to even watch.
And Bama and Michigan in the Rose Bowl. I mean, Jim Harbaugh versus Nick Saban.
It doesn't get much better than that. I mean,
and so it doesn't get much.
I'm an Alabama fan for the next month until that game happens, and once that game's going on, after that, it's game over. I'm rooting against them in the national championship, but for now, I'm rooting for Bama.
Well, we'll see. But like I said, where it was Florida State wronged, absolutely. But did the committee make the right decision? Yes,
I would
absolutely.
Agree.
Now we'll see what happens. I mean, I don't know. I don't think FSU would have lost 65-7 in the playoff, but I do think eventually, if they were to play Michigan or they were to play Washington or Texas, eventually their lack of offense probably would have caught up to them.
Yeah, easily, without a doubt. But now that kind of leads me into this year's transfer portal, essentially, with stuff that's been going on. Obviously, after Ohio State didn't get in. Now and as an Ohio State fan, obviously I'm going to talk about it. I think it was bound to happen. Kyle McCord hit the portal. And when I woke up on Monday morning, I was not expecting to see that at all. Like, I was like, okay, like,
Yeah.
I knew that after it was rumored that Cam Ward was entering the portal, I was like, okay, I had a feeling that Ohio State, yes, was obviously going to go after him. But seeing Kyle McCord hit the portal really shocked me. I was like, what the heck? Last thing I was expecting to see. And at the same time, am I happy about it? Am I upset about it? I'm kind of in between. I'm not like extremely happy. I'm not extremely upset. And I know I'm a little bit biased as an Ohio State fan. Obviously, Kyle McCord won 11-1 in his time at Ohio State starting, or 12-1 actually, because he won a game the year before when he started a game C.J. Stroud set out. But did he meet the standard at Ohio State? Yes and no. Obviously, a bunch of people were going after his head because he helped us lose to Michigan. He was one of the few reasons. But he still had a great year. But, I mean, there was a lot of misreads that he made throughout the year, a lot of overthrows, a lot of underthrows, throws that just should have been there that weren't. And a lot of people were saying that maybe the Ohio State fan base drove him out because people were calling for his head after the Michigan loss. But he sat down with Ryan Day. 247 Sports actually had an article. He sat down with Ryan Day on Sunday and basically was asking Ryan Day if he would be the starter next year again. And Ryan Day was like, no, you're going to have to compete because we're going to go after a guy in the portal. You're going to have to compete for the spot. And then he left. And I think that says a lot about who Kyle McCord is. And I think there was rumored that he was going to Nebraska, and some people are like, he was starting at Ohio State. Why would he go to Nebraska? And I think it shows a lot of his character that he doesn't want to compete for a starting job. He just wants it. Yeah. And it says a lot. But
I don't know. I mean, I see your situation. Like, I feel like, he went 11-1. Yeah, he went through some lumps, and he went through some lumps early in the game against Michigan. But he still did some things that kept Ohio State in the game and gave him a chance to win. Now he threw an interception at the end that cost him the game, but he had some moments. I mean, he's a young quarterback. He was his first year starting. I don't feel like, you might want to bring in somebody to compete, but I mean, still though, that's part of the
I think he was still solid.
That's part of the development.
I would agree. Nobody starts off like elite. There's quite a few people that do, but at Ohio State, it's just that the standard. Literally, you got to think about the fact that this year with Marvin Harrison Jr. being a Heisman finalist, that's the 6th straight year that we've had a Heisman finalist. And the 5 years before that, they were all quarterbacks. And that's where, when it comes down to, and I'm not trying to bash myself or the Ohio State fan base because I love every single Buckeye fan out there, OH. But the thing is, we are very spoiled and very arrogant when it comes to the fact that Kyle McCord wasn't an elite quarterback. And since he wasn't, people were pissed off about it.
Yeah.
And that's what it comes down to.
I mean, Bama during Saban's era, Bama had some elite quarterbacks, and then they won with not so elite quarterbacks.
Yeah.
I mean, they won with Greg McElroy. They won with A.J. McCarron, which A.J. McCarron was still pretty damn good.
Yeah.
They went to the playoff with Blake Sims. They won a championship with Jake Coker. Then they had this run of elite quarterbacks: Jalen Hurts, Tua, Mac. And Mac was an elite in his own right, but he wasn't super athletic.
Yeah.
He was elite throwing the ball. Then you had Mac, then you had Bryce, and now you have Jalen Milroe, who at the start of the year nobody knew, what he was, and now look at him.
Yeah,
he's
seriously.
in the playoff, about to
potentially win a national championship, which is absolutely insane.
The thing about the transfer portal, and I've voiced this over the course of this week, and I'll continue to voice this. I think the COVID year has really kind of hurt the transfer portal, and I think it's hurt recruiting in general, because instead of when the NCAA gave the COVID year to every player, I think they should have just given it to seniors or maybe third-year players, but instead they gave it to every player that was on a college roster, that year, and now you've got guys that are in their sixth, seventh, some of them in their 8th year of college football, and instead of saying, I understand they love football, they want to keep playing it as long as they can, but eventually something's got to give. Eventually, you're probably not going to make it to the NFL, or at least.
And that's why the portal is as crazy as it is too, because you think all these guys get extra years. So either guys with extra eligibility are going to hit the portal, or guys that are under them that aren't getting that starting experience, that are lower on the depth chart, that are younger, are going to hit the portal. And it's like,
and it also hurts recruiting as well, because some teams, some schools, some coaches want to fill their entire rosters with transfers, and instead of recruiting and trying to develop. And I think the transfer portal was intended. Now the NCAA screwed it up when they opened it up or implemented it with no guidelines. But the transfer portal, I think, was designed to fill holes that maybe you lacked in recruiting, or maybe that you had a lot of leaving to the draft. Like maybe 5 to 10, 10 spots.
Yeah.
Not, and I don't mean to call out Deion Sanders in Colorado, but I mean he's a good example of this. 70 transfers in year one. Now I get it, it's year one, but you still got to recruit. You still got to, go recruit high school and other teams. I mean, Ole Miss, Lane Kiffin likes to go get transfers instead of recruit. Some teams like
and some teams do, but I mean, and I think as recruiting wise, that kind of hurts a little bit too, because it's like for say a 5-star quarterback coming in or something like that, and you're going to go after a QB in the portal or something like that. They're gonna look at it as like, oh, that's a missed opportunity for that like kid coming in out of that newer class, because they're not going to, you know what I'm saying? They're going to have to sit a little bit longer, which maybe they don't want to do. And most of the time, yes, freshmen don't start in their first year.
Caleb Downs, all I got to say.
Dante Moore did at UCLA.
SEC Freshman of the Year. But there's a lot of good talent in the portal. You got the number one prospect in the portal right now is Walter Nolan, defensive lineman from
A&M.
A&M. He was the number one recruit in the 2022 class. They've also got some other D linemen that have hit the portal, a couple DBs. Then you have quarterbacks. You got Aiden Childs from Oregon State, who's been crystal ball to Michigan State, probably following his coach. Dante Moore, Cameron Ward. You got
Riley Leonard already committing to Notre Dame. Like,
I don't know if he's committed.
No, it says he's, or I swear he was
might
committed
be a
already.
crystal ball, but you have receivers galore, defensive linemen galore. I mean, it is crazy right now. In the first day, I think it was over 1,100 players, and that was 11% of college football.
Yep.
And then you had the bizarre scenario, the bizarre one of our former Notre Dame quarterback and now, I guess, former Alabama quarterback Tyler Buckner entering the transfer portal in lacrosse.
Yeah, and then going back to Notre Dame, which is absolutely insane. But I mean, good for him. That's an athlete right there.
Alabama lacrosse probably had a spot for you, but anyway.
I mean, Notre Dame lacrosse is a lot better than Alabama lacrosse.
Not
bad. Lacrosse in the Midwest and out east, especially, that crap's crazy.
But I mean, I wish him the best of success. But I mean, the transfer portal, I mean, it's gonna, unless there's some guidelines put on it, it's gonna keep getting.
It's going to get really chaotic.
Really chaotic each year.
Ohio State had, and I know I keep talking about Ohio State, but they had 4 DBs enter the portal on Monday. In the same day, 4 DBs. One of them was a starter. Jermaine Matthews was one of them, and that one hurt. But the other ones, it was like, all right, like it was nothing too crazy. Like Cameron Martinez was another one. But I mean, like, the other guys were more just depth, but it's like, what the heck? And obviously, like, some of those guys are leaving because they have a really great recruiting class coming in, number 2 in the nation, but it's like...
And a lot of these players, like a lot of these top players in the portal, well, there will be bidding awards over because of NIL. And I get it. I don't blame the player one bit for seeking out the best opportunity in NIL. I do not blame them one bit, but it will become bidding awards. It will become pay for play. I mean... It will become that, and I'm not against that. I'm just saying there's got to be guidelines. We've said this for months, weeks, even years since this has come out. Since both these things have become, implemented. They were implemented at the same time. NCAA has not put any rules or guidelines to it, and so that's why it's as chaotic as it is. So
yeah, I got a question for you. Where do you think Dante Moore goes?
There's been some top teams interested. I know Michigan has been in, Oregon, which Oregon, finished top 2 in his recruitment last year because he was originally committed to Oregon and then he flipped to UCLA. But also, I think I've seen FSU also in on some of these quarterbacks with Jordan Travis leaving and with their current situation.
There's just so many iffy scenarios because you look at it like. There's a lot of big schools that are going to have quarterback vacancies, like Oregon, Miami now too. Then you've got obviously A&M is one of them too, with Will Rogers leaving. You've got Ohio State. You've got potentially even Michigan. If I don't think JJ McCarthy is going to go to the draft this year. I think he stays another year. But you never know. And so like there's going to be a lot of big schools though with and like Washington too, like schools where some of these transfers are going to look to go to. Because of that situation, but
and another thing, like what was I gonna say? there's just a bunch of talent, and like
A lot of talent in the portal right now, obviously. But I mean, it's just the portal is so crazy and it is way too chaotic. And I don't even really know what else to say about it because it is what it is. You can let it speak for itself. With every single time I get a notification on my phone and Bryant and I are texting in our group chat about, oh my gosh, you see who hit the portal?
I remember what I was going to say. South Alabama has already been, hit by the portal. One of our top players, Colin Lacey, who's grown up here in Mobile and has attended South the last few years, is now in the portal, and I wish him And one thing that's going to hurt, and I've seen this, is Group of 5 schools are getting rated in the portal. When you finally find some top talent in Group of 5, they're going to get rated, and now you've seen it happen at South Alabama. And I do not blame Colin Lacey one bit. I hope he finds the best opportunity for him.
Oh yeah,
go to Bama. If you're watching this, go to Bama. I'm just kidding, but no. I hope he finds the best opportunity for him. I will watch him wherever he goes. I'll support him wherever he goes because I always support local guys that are here in Mobile. But I mean, it's just crazy, man. I hope Bama kind of lands a couple of these top guys because it'll help. Because I don't know. Bama's probably not going to have any transfers until after the playoff.
I would say so.
So
So
we'll see.
Another interesting scenario. Sorry, I don't mean to go back to Ohio State at this point, but.
Ohio State.
I know, trust me. But so there's lots of buzz around Cam Ward going to Ohio State, obviously, which I would not mind. But I'm also not opposed to the fact with Aaron Nolan coming in and still having Devin Brown and then Lincoln Keenholz as well. Because right now, Devin Brown's starting against Mizzou in the bowl game, in the Cotton Bowl, in Dallas. And Devin Brown never really got a shot to start this year behind Kyle McCord. Because Kyle McCord won the job. We threw Devin Brown in here and there a couple plays a game. But we'll see what he's capable of doing against Mizzou. Obviously, there's going to be lots of people sitting out. But the younger guys are going to shine for all of these bowl games. And that's the fun part about bowl games like this, too. It sucks. It really does. I hate the fact that a lot of people opt out, especially if you're projected to be a top draft pick. It makes sense. But in those moments, that's where you see younger guys shine. Like literally when Ohio State played Utah in the Rose Bowl 2 years ago, Garrett Wilson and Chris Olave sat. That gave Marvin Harrison a shot to shine, and he had 3 touchdowns in his first game where he was actually utilized as a receiver.
Yeah,
and we'll see that in a ton of I don't know. It's just weird, but that's what we'll see in a lot of these smaller bowl games. People that aren't necessarily in a New Year's Six bowl game or aren't in the playoff, those teams are going to have a lot of younger guys shine. So
with the transfer portal, we're fixing to shift to the Heisman Trophy. The Heisman Trophy will be given to 1 out of 4 players this weekend, and 3 of those are transfers. Jaden Daniels transferring from Arizona State to LSU, Bo Nix transferring from Auburn to Oregon, and then Michael Penix transferring from Indiana to Washington, and then you got Marvin Harrison Jr. in there, and now we're going to shift our focus to the Heisman Trophy. All 4 of these players are exceptional players. Marvin Harrison's probably going to be the first non-quarterback taken off the board if it's not Brock Bowers or somebody else. Bo Nix will get a chance. I think he's going to play in the bowl game. Michael Penix will get a chance to show more of what he is in the playoff. And then Jaden Daniels, what a season he's had. Obviously, Jaden Daniels is probably going to be the one that wins it.
I think he is the one that wins it. And I think Marvin Harrison Jr. ends up finishing 4th in the voting. And as much as Ohio State bias aside, I think it was more or less he did have a great season. And he had a phenomenal season with Hannah McCord throwing him the ball. But I do think Jaden Daniels finishes first. And then I think it's going to be between Penix and Bo Nix. That's a coin toss. I think Bo Nix might finish ahead of Penix.
I don't think so. I think Michael Penix, out of the 4, has probably – I think he has made a case out of the 4 as much as anybody because he did go 13-0. He led his team to multiple game-winning drives against Oregon twice. He beat Oregon twice, a top 5 team. What I think of the Heisman, and I think, and a lot of other people I think of it like this as well. I think it's more than just stats, okay? And I'm not trying to discredit anything Bo Nix, Marvin Harrison, or Jaden Daniels has done, all season. Jaden Daniels, an exceptional player. Alabama could not stop him until he got hurt, unfortunately, in the game against Alabama. To me, it comes down to, for the Heisman, it comes down to moments. Not only are you the best player on the best team, but on one of the best teams, but comes down to moments, and when the lights are the brightest, what do you do? Like,
Yeah.
So Michael Penix, when the lights were on, when the lights were the brightest for him, against Oregon twice, against Oregon State when they needed it, Washington State, when they had to win to keep winning to secure a playoff spot,
They did.
he had his moments.
Yeah, he did have his moments.
It comes down to a Heisman moment, in my opinion, and you've seen it several times. You can go back to Lamar Jackson. You can go back to Baker Mayfield. Some of his Heisman moments were in the Big 12 championship that year. Kyler Murray. And then you got Joe Burrow beating Bama, beating Georgia in the SEC championship. Bryce Young, his Heisman moment was the 97-yard drive against Auburn to keep Bama alive in the playoffs, then beating Georgia the next week. And so I think it comes down to those moments for the Heisman Trophy.
No, I would agree. And, I mean, you pose a good point there, too, because, I mean, Michael Penix did beat Oregon twice. He won the Pac-12 championship, and now he's in the playoff, number 2 spot. Like,
if I were a voter, I'd give it to Michael Penix just because I feel like he had those moments. Jayden Daniels, yes, while he put up a lot of stats, while he did some incredible things, over 3,000 yards through the air, another 1,000 on the ground. However many touchdowns he had, I think he had over 50. He's like one of the only he's the 5th SEC quarterback ever to do that. I mean, that's incredible. I just don't think he had enough. And in his 3 biggest games, he lost.
Yeah, that is true.
Against FSU, Ole Miss, and Bama.
Yeah, but, I mean, you said if you were a voter, you do know a voter, you could try and sway a little bit of bias. No, I'm just
she's probably, I know a couple voters. I think they probably already casted their vote.
Yeah.
But the thing about it is, I just think it comes down to those moments, and I feel like Michael Penix won those moments. I feel like, like I said, and I'll say it again, when the lights are the brightest, when the stakes are the highest, what do you do? How do you perform? And speaking of the 4 candidates, I feel like a couple of them got left out. I think Jalen Milroe probably should have gotten in there ahead.
Could have, especially with the end of the season and how he improved tremendously.
And I feel like he had his moment against Auburn, the 4th and 31, against LSU, having 4 touchdowns on the ground, really, winning that game on his legs against Georgia, stepping up when he didn't have his best game against Georgia, but he made the plays when he needed to. And so, I don't know. It's the Heisman. The Heisman is what it is, and I would like for it to not become as much of a quarterback award as it is. But
and that's the thing that I hate about it too, is because it sucks, and it's the same thing with the NFL MVP. It's really turned into a quarterback reward, and it is what it is. Like, quarterback does lead the team, he does a lot of work, takes a lot of the load, takes a lot of the blame for stuff like that. But it's like, and I mean, this year though, I don't know if there really was anyone else that stood out as much as some of these quarterbacks. Like, yes, Marvin Harrison Jr. is in the mix, but it's so difficult for, like, say, defensive guys to get in there, and stuff like that. Like, obviously, Will Anderson, Aiden Hutchinson, Chase Young, like, they've all been Heisman finalists before. Like,
not Will Anderson.
He finished 5th. Yeah, he finished 5th. That year when Aiden Hutchinson was a finalist. Yeah, but I mean,
it's definitely But I mean, if I had to make my Heisman pick, who I think is going to win it, and he's the overwhelming favorite, it is Jayden Daniels, and he deserves it. So I mean, I'm not going to take anything away from him. If it were my vote, though, it'd be Michael Penix. Big Penix energy.
Well, you got to, if you're going to say that, you got to say it just like Desmond Howard did, where he said big Penix energy. I emphasized the X at the end there, because that's like Desmond Howard did that on live TV for game day. So don't come at me for that. But I don't know. I understand.
Speaking of Desmond Howard, he almost nailed his playoff projections.
Yeah, that is.
You got one team wrong, and that was Florida State, who you could argue should have been in there.
Yeah, so I mean, it is what it is. But at the same time, though, yes, I understand you picking Michael Penix or Penix, whatever you want to say. I know it's Penix. I'm just messing around now. But I do think that more than anything, I do think Jayden Daniels gets it.
He's going to win it.
I think 100% he gets it, aside from the fact that he did have 3 losses. I mean, dude is just a freak athlete, literally a freak athlete, can get it done all over the field. I'm curious to see how he ends up panning out in the league in his future too, to see, because I really don't know if I don't want to say he won't, but I mean, it's so iffy nowadays too, especially with running quarterbacks. Like, obviously there's a lot of hype around Justin Fields, like going back to the Bears now in Ohio State, a lot of hype around Justin Fields, but didn't necessarily pan out yet. He has 5 games left to turn it around, or else Ryan Poles might be selecting a different quarterback.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't know. But
well, let's get into some bowl matchups, man. Let's get into some early look at some bowl matchups. You got a bunch of bowl games. They start next weekend, the 16th. You'll have a handful of bowls. But, I mean, we're not going to preview those. We're going to pick those next week. But, I mean, and a lot of these teams we don't know about. But we're going to get into some of the bigger bowl matchups. So, kind of like an early look. Like the New Year's Six Bowl. First one I want to look at, and it's probably my favorite outside the playoffs, is Ohio State and Mizzou, because these are two teams. I don't remember the last time these two teams have ever played. So
it'll be a really good game, and I mean it's going to be. I think it makes it even more interesting, obviously, because
Kyle
McCord's gone. Marvin Harrison Jr. is not going to be playing in that game.
Might not be playing,
but might not. And there's going to be quite a few other players that aren't playing in that game. And for Mizzou, they have an insane air raid offense.
Most of their players are coming back.
Yeah, Brady Cook, Luther Burden,
Cody Strader.
It's like, and that offense is scary. And the Ohio State defense was very good this year. But, I mean, they're going to be competing against one of the better offenses that they've seen all year long, which is going to be exciting to see how that game pans out. Because obviously, as an Ohio State fan, I'm going to pick Ohio State. And I think they will win that game. But it's going to be close, especially because of the fact that there's going to be a lot of younger guys having to shine and come through for them.
That's the purpose of a lot of these bowls that aren't the playoff. Because a lot of people and a lot of players on the top teams will probably opt out, especially if they're going to the draft. So you get an opportunity not only during the game, but during bowl prep as well to kind of see your team next year.
Yeah,
and so and then you also got Ole Miss and Penn State in the Peach Bowl. I like that matchup. An elite defense in Penn State going up against an elite offense at Ole Miss.
I don't think Penn State, in all honesty, I don't think Penn State has seen an offense like Ole Miss's at all this year.
I mean, they've seen Michigan's offense, they've
and
seen
Ohio State's, but
offense.
I mean those offenses aren't as high scoring as Ole Miss's is, and Ole Miss can put the ball in the end zone.
Penn State, man, we talked about this, in the offseason when we previewed them, and when we previewed their matchups against Ohio State and Michigan. There are only 2 losses. Once again, are to Michigan and Ohio State. They cannot, for whatever reason, they cannot seem to get over that hump. But I think they did hire a new offensive coordinator.
Yeah.
And I think, Drew Aller, give him another year. I think
he'll be all right.
Maybe if Penn State goes and grabs a couple of receivers from the portal, a running back or two, I think, or in recruiting as well, I think they'll be all right. Then,
one of the games that I'm excited for is the Fiesta Bowl. Oregon and Liberty. I'm ready to see Bo Nix throw for 700 yards against Liberty in his final college football game. No, I don't actually think that's going to happen.
Also, this is me defending Florida State here. If you're gonna say undefeated doesn't matter, how are you gonna put Liberty in the Fiesta Bowl when it probably should have been SMU or even a Tulane if they lost, or even like a Toledo or I don't know.
Yeah,
or New Mexico State or. Liberty's going to probably Oregon's a 16-point favorite. It was 19.5 at one point.
I think Oregon hangs at least 60 points on them.
And then in the Cheez-It Citrus Bowl, we got Tennessee and Iowa.
That game's going to be...
The ReliaQuest Bowl, we got LSU and Wisconsin, which this will give me a chance to scout Wisconsin for next year because Bama's got to go to them.
Yep, in Madison. So,
but I think the one game that everybody's looking at that's not outside the playoff is the Orange Bowl. Georgia and Florida State, the 2 teams that were left out, that you could argue a case for either one of these teams, but they still should have been in.
Yeah.
I mean, Florida State more so than Georgia, but to see what, how, and people want to talk about, Florida State players opting out now and Georgia players opting out. I think they say that they see this as an and I've said this, and some players might opt out. For Florida State, you've already had Johnny Wilson enter the draft and he's opted out. But
possibly Jared Verse, possibly Keon Coleman.
Maybe,
yeah.
But I also think that both teams see this as an opportunity to prove that they belonged, and maybe they won't have as many opt-outs. Maybe they'll get to play with the similar teams that played throughout the season, and this will be Florida State's chance going up against Georgia, who we'll see if they'll be ready to play following the loss to Alabama. Not getting in the playoff, being number 1 all year, going undefeated in the regular season. 29 straight, and then just being left out of the playoff just like that after a loss. This is one of my favorite games as well. I don't know. I mean, we'll see what happens in this game. Georgia is a 14-point favorite right now.
I think Georgia wins that game easily, but I mean, we'll see. Like we said, I mean, you really don't know. It's too early to say anything now, especially with potential guys declaring for the draft and whatnot too, and opting out. But
and then you got the playoff games. Okay, we got in the Rose Bowl. You have number 1 Michigan taking on number 4
Roll Tide,
Alabama.
baby.
This game was interesting for me because this will be the best. Michigan's defense will more than likely be the best defense that Alabama has seen all year. But flip the coin, Alabama's offense might be the best offense Alabama has, or Michigan has seen all year.
Especially with how developed Monroe is now.
Well, they haven't, and no knock to the Big Ten, but they have not seen a quarterback as dynamic as Jalen Milroe.
You are not wrong at all. I mean, if you're going to look at the top quarterbacks in the Big Ten, it's Talia Tagovailoa, Kyle McCord, potentially Drew Aller, and there's not many other guys up there in that conversation.
And the thing about Milroe is, and you saw it against Georgia, you saw it against multiple teams this weekend, or this season, where they had to bring down, they had to use an extra defensive lineman or an extra linebacker or safety as a spy. And that'll be the same thing with Michigan. They're going to have to figure out how to stop Alabama's run. Alabama, it's going to be a physical game. It's going to be one in the trenches because on both sides of the ball, because Alabama, showed against Georgia that they can be the more physical team and they can line it up and run it down your throat. But Michigan is also on the same thing. To me, it comes down for this game as an early look. It comes down to which quarterback can make enough plays in the passing game. Whichever quarterback can make enough plays in the passing game, and which defense can step up and stop the run from either team, that's going to be the difference.
Yeah, no, easily. And both these teams are going to be running out of the ball. It'll be
But then in the other game, the Sugar Bowl, this game will be about high-flying offenses.
Yeah, and that game is so iffy for me too because I want to say Texas and I want to take Texas with everything in me.
But at the same time, what is the Texas issue? The secondary.
Exactly, and it's like. And the thing is, too, Michael Penix, Roma Dunze, however you say his name, like, they are elite.
And they got McMillan back, too.
But they're also elite at coming back from behind. I think this year they've had so many games where they are comfortable being behind in a game because they know Michael Penix can get them back ahead.
Yeah.
So that's what's going to be interesting about that game.
But, and see, that's a testament to, Michael Penix, how important he is to that team. And so you look at the lines in these games. Michigan's a 1.5-point favorite, which that was kind of shocking to me. Maybe not so. Texas is a 4.5-point favorite. So these are going to be some close games. Probably the best 2 semifinals we like to get together because usually
one's like a blowout.
One's a I don't know. I mean, we'll see. Last year's semifinals both were pretty good games. But
last year because Michigan came back at the end and Ohio State lost by 3.
But if I had to pick my national championship early, I'd go Alabama-Washington. That'd be me. And now
I'd probably say Alabama-Washington too, and I'd say Alabama wins it.
Maybe, but we'll see. I'm contemplating using my reverse psychology. I'm 4-0.
Whatever you say. Everyone's going to come after you in the group chat, Brian.
We'll see. But not. There are a lot of bowl games, and going back to the Heisman talk, a lot of people are arguing that Jordan Travis should be the one that wins it because he was so important to Florida State, which you can make an argument. Yeah,
you could.
Anyway, we have some fun off-season stuff coming up. We have the bowl games, we have the playoff. This month will be busy for sure. And next week we'll get into some of these these early bowl matchups. Pick them and
Heck yeah! Can't wait to get into it too and. It's gonna be a blast to see what happens.
This season has flown by.
It has flown by. Literally, it's funny because we started this podcast a little under a year ago. Yeah. And when we started it, we were anticipating the build-up for college football to be back.
And we were in the off season.
Yeah, we talked about football every week for months.
And it took so long to get here.
And then now it just in like the blink of an eye, it's already almost gone. Like we had our first college football picker. Week 1 with Cody, and it's like, and that seems like.
And now last week we had potentially our last with Simone, who was, we want to thank all our guest pickers, by the way. Simone went 5-2, so she did not join the group or break the tie. So before we go, we got a 3-way tie between Blaine, Alyssa, and Blake. And the way we're going to break this tie is there is a football game this weekend. There's Army-Navy, and we asked each of them to give a prediction on the Army-Navy game and a score. So both Blaine and Blake have picked Army. They've given different scores. And then
Alyssa picked Navy.
Alyssa picked Navy, and she gave a score as well. Hopefully that'll break our tie. If not, we'll have to come up with something else. But
I'm excited to see what comes out of that. So
we cannot thank our guest pickers enough. Hopefully, we'll have more guests on in the coming up. Up in the upcoming weeks or months, and even maybe for our bowl picks, we'll bring back a previous guest picker. Just for fun.
Yeah. Most definitely. But can't wait for it. But thank you for tuning in to episode 36 of the Back of the End Zone podcast. I'm Josh Ryzik for Bryant Kleski. We're out of here.
I have one thing to say. Roll Tide. I'm not going to put that in there.
Fucking white people, man. Thinking they're entitled and shit.
You're white, buddy.
No, I'm not. I'm black.